Chapter 1, The Silent Drift. The stars outside the window of the starship Aurora twinkled like distant memories of a forgotten world. Captain Ella Vance sat silently in the command chair, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the armrest. The ship had been drifting in a silent void for weeks now, no signals, no destinations, just the ever-present blackness of space. They were on a deep space reconnaissance mission, far beyond the territories claimed by humanity, investigating anomalies that had baffled scientists for centuries. But now, there was only the silence of space. Suddenly, a soft chime echoed through the bridge, shattering the silence. Ella's eyes snapped to the console where a flashing icon indicated an incoming signal. Strange, there were no colonies, no space stations, not even debris in this sector. Captain Vance, we're receiving something, came the voice of Roderick Kane, the ship's chief communications officer. He looked at her from his station, his face a mixture of confusion and apprehension. Where is it coming from? Ella asked, her voice tight with the tension that had been building inside her since they entered this region of space. Coordinates, approximately 2 clicks away. There's something out there, Captain. Ella's heart raced. For weeks, the vast emptiness had gnawed at her crew's morale, but now there was something, anything. Prepare a team. I'm going with you. Within minutes, the shuttle was prepped, and Ella, along with Roderick and Dr. Elena Graves, the ship's xenobiologist, were on their way toward the source of the signal. As they approached, the object slowly emerged from the blackness, an alien ship, sleek and unfamiliar. Its surface was smooth, and it shimmered in the low light of the nearby star. Ella could feel the weight of the moment, the uncertainty and the excitement that came with discovering something unknown. The shuttle docked, and the small crew boarded the alien ship. The moment they stepped inside, a soft hum vibrated through the walls, a sensation that sent a chill down Ella's spine. We're not alone, Roderick whispered as he glanced at his handheld scanner. There's life here. Chapter 2, The First Encounter. The corridors were dimly lit, pulsating with an almost organic rhythm. It was unlike any structure Ella had ever seen, more like the inside of a living creature than a starship. As they ventured deeper, the tension grew. Suddenly, they stepped into a large room. In the center was a console, glowing softly, and standing beside it was a figure, a humanoid alien with pale, smooth skin and large, black eyes. Its hands moved gracefully over the console, as though in deep concentration. Ella and her team froze. The alien turned slowly, meeting their gaze with curiosity, not hostility. Its expression was unreadable, but there was something inherently peaceful about its demeanor. Dr. Graves stepped forward cautiously, her voice barely above a whisper. We come in peace. The alien's gaze shifted to her, and then, to everyone's surprise, it spoke. The voice that echoed through the room was soft, melodic, and entirely unexpected. You are travelers, it said in flawless English, its mouth unmoving. You have ventured far. Ella felt a lump form in her throat, but she maintained her composure. Yes. We are explorers. We found your ship, or did you find us? The alien tilted its head slightly, as though considering the question. We found each other. You are not the first, but you are different. What do you mean? Ella asked, stepping forward now, her nerves steadying. There have been others who sought power, dominance, or knowledge beyond their reach. But you are searching for something else, something deeper. Ella didn't know how to respond. The alien's words were cryptic, but there was a truth to them she couldn't deny. Chapter 3, The Exchange of Knowledge. The alien introduced itself as Aylar, a member of an ancient race known as the Yulidith, who had long since abandoned physical dominance over their world in favor of intellectual and spiritual pursuits. The ship they had found was a relic, a tool for exploring the universe and understanding the deeper truths of existence. Ella and her team spent hours communicating with Aylar. The alien shared knowledge, not through words, but through images and sensations that were transmitted directly into their minds. It was overwhelming at first, visions of distant galaxies, civilizations rising and falling, and the immense scale of the universe. Dr. Graves, who had spent her entire life studying xenobiology and first-contact scenarios, was particularly fascinated. She engaged Ayler in deep conversations about the nature of life and evolution across different worlds. Roderick, on the other hand, remained cautious, his military training keeping him on edge, even though Ayler showed no signs of hostility. "What is it that you seek?" Ayler asked Ella one day, as they stood by the central console of the alien ship. Ella hesitated. It was a question she had been asking herself ever since they left Earth. "I'm not sure," she admitted. "But I think I'm looking for something, more than just answers." Ayler regarded her for a long moment. "There is a balance in all things," it said. "To seek without understanding why is to be lost in the infinite." Ella thought about those words long after their conversation ended. Chapter 4, The Truth of the Sphere. As the days passed, Ayler guided Ella and her crew deeper into the ship, revealing more of the Yuletith's technology and history. But there was one room, sealed off and guarded by a barrier of energy, that Ayler had yet to reveal. Finally, after much contemplation, Ayler brought them to the room. "This is the sphere," Ayler said, as the energy barrier lowered. Inside the chamber was a massive, glowing orb, suspended in the air, pulsating with an energy that felt both ancient and alive. "What is it?" Roderick asked, his hand hovering near his weapon. "It is the source of our knowledge, our power," Ayler explained. "It contains the essence of the universe, the memories of all that has been and all that will be." Ella stared at the sphere, mesmerized. It radiated a warmth, a pull, that made her want to reach out and touch it. But there was also a fear, a deep-seated instinct that told her the sphere was not to be trifled with. "What happens if we touch it?" Dr. Graves asked, her voice filled with awe. Ayler's eyes darkened slightly. "To touch the sphere is to connect with the fabric of reality itself. It is not something to be done lightly. Many have tried and failed, consumed by their own desires." Ella took a step back. "And if we succeed?" Ayler's gaze met hers. "Then you will see the truth of all things. But be warned, truth is not always what you expect." Chapter 5, The Choice. The temptation of the sphere was overwhelming. For days, Ella and her crew debated what to do. Dr. Graves was eager to engage with it, to unlock the mysteries of the universe. Roderick, ever cautious, wanted to leave the ship and return to the safety of the Aurora. Ella was torn. The sphere represented everything she had ever wanted to discover, the ultimate answer to the questions of existence. But Ayler's warning lingered in her mind. On the final night, Ella stood before the sphere alone. The others had retired to their quarters, leaving her to make the decision that would change the course of their journey. Ayler appeared beside her, silent but watchful. "Why are you showing this to us?" Ella asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What do you want from us?" Ayler's response was simple. "We seek understanding. We are the custodians of knowledge, and we share it with those who are ready." Ella stared at the sphere. It glowed softly, its energy calling to her. Finally, she made her choice. Chapter 6, The Awakening. As Ella reached out and touched the sphere, the world around her dissolved into light. She was no longer aboard the alien ship, she was everywhere and nowhere at once. Stars, planets, galaxies swirled around her, and she could feel the pulse of the universe itself. But with that knowledge came a profound realization: humanity was not alone, and they were not the center of the universe. There were forces far greater than they could ever comprehend, forces that shaped the very fabric of reality. And yet, within that vastness, there was a delicate balance, a fragile thread that connected all living things. When Ella finally returned to herself, she was lying on the floor of the alien ship, her heart racing. Ayler stood over her, its expression unreadable. "You have seen the truth," it said. Ella nodded, still shaken by the experience. "What now?" "Now," Ayler replied, "you must decide what to do with that knowledge." Chapter 7, The Journey Home. In the end, Ella and her crew left the alien ship, forever changed by their encounter with Ayler and the sphere. The knowledge they had gained was both a blessing and a burden, a responsibility that weighed heavily on their shoulders. As they returned to the Aurora, Ella couldn't help but feel a sense of peace, knowing that they had glimpsed the greater truths of the universe. But there was also a lingering question, one that would follow her for the rest of her life: what would humanity do with that knowledge? Would they use it to grow, to understand, to seek balance? Chapter 7, The Journey Home, continued. What would humanity do with that knowledge? Would they use it to grow, to understand, to seek balance with the universe? Or would they, like so many before, fall victim to their own greed and desire for power? Ella sat in the command chair of the Aurora as they prepared to leave the region of space that had been the site of their greatest discovery. The alien ship, Aylar, and the sphere, all of it felt like a dream now, distant and surreal. But the knowledge they had gained was very real, and it weighed heavily on her mind. Dr. Graves sat quietly beside her, lost in thought. Roderick was at his station, running final checks on the systems. The crew was exhausted, but they had emerged from the encounter stronger, more united. As the Aurora powered up its engines, ready to rejoin the rest of the fleet, Ella glanced at the starfield outside the window. She knew that their journey was far from over. The mysteries of the universe were endless, and she had only just begun to scratch the surface. A soft chime echoed through the bridge, signaling that they were ready to depart. Ella took a deep breath and gave the command, "Take us home." The stars outside the window blurred as the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving behind the alien ship and the sphere. But the memory of their encounter remained, and it would continue to shape their future. Ella leaned back in her chair, her mind racing with the possibilities of what lay ahead. The universe was vast, and now more than ever, she was determined to understand it. As they journeyed home, she couldn't help but wonder what awaited them. Would humanity be ready for the knowledge they had gained? Or would it consume them, as it had consumed so many before? Only time would tell. Chapter 8, The Burden of Knowledge. As the Aurora sped through the vast expanse of space, Captain Ella Vance couldn't shake the feeling of something profound stirring inside her. The encounter with Aylar and the sphere had left her with more than just knowledge, it had burdened her with a responsibility she never anticipated. Back on the ship, the crew remained unusually quiet. Even Dr. Graves, who usually brimmed with enthusiasm after a discovery, seemed lost in thought. They had all seen the sphere, they had all felt its power, but it was Ella who had touched it. The weight of that decision now lay heavy on her chest. Roderick's voice pulled her out of her thoughts. "Captain, we're approaching the rendezvous point. Fleet Command will want a full report." Ella frowned. She had been avoiding this moment. How could she explain what had happened to her superiors? The knowledge they had gained from the sphere wasn't something that could be catalogued or analyzed like a typical discovery. It was something different. "We'll keep the details vague for now," she said, her voice firm. "No one touches the sphere until we fully understand what it is." Roderick glanced at her, his expression skeptical. "You really think the fleet will leave it alone? They'll want to study it, maybe even weaponize it." Ella's jaw tightened. He was right. The fleet had never been one to let a powerful discovery go unexamined, especially something with the potential to alter the course of human history. "We'll make sure that doesn't happen," she said, though she wasn't sure how. Chapter 9, Unforeseen Consequences. Upon their return to fleet headquarters, the crew of the Aurora was debriefed by the upper echelon of the military. Ella's report was clinical and concise, omitting the deeper, more mystical aspects of the sphere. She described the alien technology, the ship's structural design, and the fact that the sphere was an object of immense energy. But as expected, her superiors were not satisfied with the limited information. "We need to understand the full capabilities of this sphere, Captain Vance," Admiral Renault said, leaning across the table in the dimly lit debriefing room. His eyes gleamed with the hunger for discovery. "You're telling us you didn't probe its power further?" Ella kept her voice steady. "The alien, Aylar, warned us about its dangers. We believe that unearthing the full extent of the sphere's abilities without proper understanding could have catastrophic consequences." Renault's lips tightened. He was not a man used to being denied access to knowledge or power. "We'll handle it. The Aurora's crew will be replaced by specialists trained for this sort of thing. You'll receive new orders soon." Ella stiffened but said nothing. Her mind raced. There was no stopping the fleet's curiosity. They wouldn't hesitate to exploit the sphere, even if it meant endangering countless lives. As they left the room, Roderick caught up to her, his voice low. "They won't stop, will they?" "No," Ella replied, her voice grim. "Which means we have to do something." Chapter 10, Ayler's warning. Back on the Aurora, Ella gathered her closest confidants, Roderick, Dr. Graves, and a few trusted crew members. They stood in the darkened strategy room, where the glow of holographic maps of the alien ship filled the space. "We can't let them take the sphere," Ella said, her voice firm. Ayler was clear about what would happen if we pushed too far. Dr. Graves nodded. "The sphere isn't just a source of energy. It's connected to something much larger, something beyond our comprehension. If they tamper with it, they could unleash something we can't control," Roderick finished, his face pale. Ella took a deep breath. "We have to return to the alien ship. We need to warn Ayler and find a way to stop the fleet from accessing the sphere." The decision was made. Under the guise of a standard reconnaissance mission, the Aurora once again set course for the alien ship. Chapter 11, The Custodian of Balance. When they arrived at the alien ship, the atmosphere was different. The soft hum that had greeted them before was now more pronounced, as if the ship itself was awakening in response to their presence. Ayler met them at the entrance, its black eyes reflecting the shimmering light of the sphere. "You have returned," it said, its voice tinged with a hint of sadness. Ella nodded. "The fleet intends to take the sphere. They want to exploit it for their own purposes." Ayler's expression darkened. "The sphere is not meant for those who seek power. It is a balance between knowledge and chaos. If they try to control it, they will tip the scales, and the consequences will be catastrophic." "What can we do?" Ella asked, her voice filled with urgency. Ayler regarded her for a long moment. "The sphere is a bridge between dimensions. It is a gateway, not a weapon. If they attempt to harness its power, they will not find what they seek. They will find only destruction." Dr. Graves stepped forward. "Can we move the sphere? Hide it somewhere they can't find it?" Ayler shook its head. "The sphere is bound to this place. It cannot be moved. But there is a way to protect it." Ella's heart raced. "How?" Ayler's black eyes met hers. "You must become its custodian." Chapter 12, The Custodian's Burden. The weight of Ayler's words settled heavily on Ella's shoulders. To become the custodian of the sphere meant more than just protecting it, it meant dedicating herself to preserving the balance of the universe. "It is not a burden to be taken lightly," Ayler said. "But you are different from those who came before. You seek understanding, not power. That is why the sphere allowed you to touch it." Ella glanced at her crew, at Roderick and Dr. Graves, who had followed her through every challenge. They had come so far, seen so much, and now the fate of the sphere rested in her hands. "I'll do it," Ella said finally, her voice steady. "I'll protect the sphere." Ayler bowed its head slightly. "Then the sphere will recognize you as its guardian. But be warned, this is a lifelong duty. The knowledge you now possess will shape the future, but it will also isolate you." Ella nodded. "I understand." As Ayler performed the ancient ritual, connecting Ella to the sphere's energy, she felt a surge of power unlike anything she had ever known. It wasn't just knowledge, it was the pulse of the universe itself. She could feel the stars, the planets, the very fabric of reality intertwining with her own consciousness. When the ritual was complete, Ella stood before the sphere, its light now pulsating in harmony with her own heartbeat. She was the custodian, the protector of balance. Chapter 13, The Final Confrontation. When they returned to the Aurora, the fleet was already there. Admiral Renault stood on the command deck, his eyes cold as he took in the sight of Ella and her crew were taking the sphere. He said, his voice leaving no room for argument. "You've had your chance to explore. Now it's time for us to secure it." Ella stepped forward, her heart pounding. "You can't. If you try to control the sphere, you'll destroy everything." Renault sneered. "I don't believe in fairy tales, Captain." Before he could give the order, a massive energy surge rippled through the ship. The sphere, now connected to Ella, reacted to the fleet's aggression, its power building into a force that could not be contained. "You don't understand," Ella said, her voice filled with a newfound authority. "The sphere isn't something you can control. It will defend itself." Renault's eyes widened as the ship's systems began to overload. Sparks flew from the consoles, and alarms blared throughout the ship. Ella raised her hand, feeling the sphere's energy coursing through her. She spoke, not to Renault, but to the sphere itself. "Stop." In an instant, the chaos subsided. The ship's systems returned to normal, and the energy surge dissipated. Renault stood frozen, his face pale. What did you do?" Ella met his gaze, her expression calm but unyielding. "I'm the custodian of the sphere now. Its power is beyond your comprehension." Renault staggered back, his face filled with fear. "This isn't over, Vance." "Yes, it is," Ella said, her voice firm. "The sphere is under my protection now. No one will touch it." Chapter 14, A New Beginning. With the fleet retreating, Ella and her crew stood before the sphere one final time. The journey had changed them all in ways they couldn't fully comprehend. But one thing was clear, their mission was no longer about discovery. It was about protection, balance, and the future of the universe. As they prepared to leave the alien ship, Aylar appeared beside Ella. "You have done well, custodian. The sphere is safe." Ella nodded. "But for how long?" "As long as you are its guardian, the sphere will remain in balance. But there will always be those who seek power. You must remain vigilant." Ella understood the weight of her new responsibility. The sphere's knowledge was a gift, but it was also a curse. It would guide her, but it would also demand constant vigilance. As the Aurora set course for its next destination, Ella felt the weight of the universe on her shoulders. But she also felt a strange sense of peace. The knowledge she had gained, the power of the sphere, it was no longer something to fear. It was something to protect, something to guide her. The journey wasn't over. In fact, it had only just begun.